Whether you're rich, poor, young or old, I can pretty much guarantee with certainty that you've either owned one yourself or know someone who's owned one before. A cheap car. Often when you think budget-friendly car, it's usually something rather austere, uninspiring and very uncomfortable to drive. However, we are in luck because one manufacturer decided to throw away that rule book and instead they gave us something that's actually nothing short of a joy to drive, yet still very comfortable and also disposable at the same time. Well, of course, that manufacturer would be Peugeot, and the model would be the 206, the greatest cheap car ever made. Now, Peugeot was never really known for being a conventional manufacturer. They started off in 1810 making hand saws, then they graduated to making coffee grinders, then pepper grinders, then bicycles, then finally in 1889 we got the first Peugeot motor vehicle. Fast forward many decades later to 1998 and we were given this beautiful little car known as the 206. And although for the Australian market, production of the 206 ended in about 2007, in other parts of the globe it continued for many years, such as Iran, which was producing the Peugeot 206 as recently as 2024. And really, I can't blame our friends who make some of the world's finest rugs. The 206 is such a fine example of everything that a compact car should be. The predecessor of this car, the 205, is legendary in its own right in the WRC scene. However, it still doesn't steal the spotlight away completely from the little 206, as this chassis went on to win 24 victories in WRC. Truthfully though, motorsport success isn't really the cornerstone of the 206 story. It's just a cool little piece of history which also happens to explain a lot of the exterior styling quirks. For example, these bonnet vents right here which lead to absolutely nothing. I'm being dead serious when I say that the only thing that these hood vents cool down is the dirt and debris that falls underneath them. While Mustang owners are actually silly enough to pay for racing stripes, with the Peugeot 206 it's built in, just underneath the factory clear coat. If you leave this car in the sun long enough, eventually that nasty clear coat wears away, revealing these awesome racing stripes that go right across the roof of the car. I'd like to actually take a minute to thank the engineers at Peugeot for being so forward-thinking. They've pre-installed the tow hook at the front and the rear, permanently fixed by the way, so that when you are getting stuck on the rally course of your local grocery store car park, you can easily be towed out without any confusion. Moving down to the side of the Peugeot 206, we have one of the world's smartest fuel filler caps ever. You see, you must grab the key, insert it into the actual cap lid, twist, pull it out, and then place it somewhere convenient for you. I would like to thank the engineers at Peugeot for thinking about people's safety and ensuring that fuel tanks are properly secure before you're able to drive off. Now, having a look at the rear of the Peugeot 206, you get to see one of the more exciting motorsport-derived pieces of technology. This is a negative pendulum inertia muffler. And basically what that means is when you're going around roundabouts at riveting speed, it helps counteract the body weight and roll of the Peugeot 206. Thank you, Peugeot. Another fantastic example of Peugeot's practical thinking is rather than putting the spare wheel in the boot, like it would be in a regular car and taking up unnecessary space, it's actually down here. This alone basically puts the Peugeot 206 on par with something like a Land Rover. Ah, what a thing of beauty my dear 206 is. However, beauty isn't just about what's on the outside, it is also, of course, very much what is on the inside that matters as well. So let's hop on in. Embodied in this interior is the indomitable and fashionable French spirit. Starting off with the gauge cluster, I really can't think of a single other cheap car that has a dashboard manufactured by Jaeger, as in Jaeger-LeCoultre, as in the Swiss watch manufacturer known for their expensive timepieces. Now, if you're wondering what's behind that little white scribbly bit on the gauge cluster, for legal reasons, I have no idea. However, one could hypothesize that maybe there was an airbag light which maybe got scribbled on top of rather than actually looked after. Moving on to the steering wheel, of course, there is nothing. It is a cheap little Peugeot. However, They have gone an extra mile above and beyond, and they have given us steering radio controls, just not in the way that you would think. They're actually located here, right next to the steering wheel. And you have a couple little options like changing radio stations or skipping tracks, raising and lowering the volume, and that's pretty much it. Towards the center of the dashboard, we have this funny little screen here, which gives you lots of useful information like your fuel economy, the time of day, and of course the temperature outside. Mine tends to scream at me in French sometimes with some messages that I don't quite understand, and so I've chosen respectfully to ignore them, and yet the car continues to function without fail. Moving towards the passenger side of the dashboard, we have this little storage cubby up here, which is perfect for storing whatever you please. In my case, it happens to just be a bottle of Shiraz and some cheese. But wait, there's more storage. If you go ahead and open up the glove box here, you can see that there is space for 2 cup holders, your sunglasses, a pen, and perhaps a stack of business cards or some smokes. If you're French, I think I know which one that is. Then of course, we have the radio, which is at the absolute forefront of hi-fi technology for 2005, when this car was made. Now, if you're as fortunate as I am, at exactly 148,882 kilometers, the blower motor for your climate control system in your Peugeot 206 will cease to function. Now, although you might be frustrated at first, thinking, why have the climate controls failed on my beautiful, gorgeous Peugeot 206? You need to calm yourself down and then ask the question, why have the climate controls failed on my Peugeot 206? It is only then that you will truly understand the engineering principles of Peugeot's Fresh Air program, or FAP for short. As a part of the clever engineering of Peugeot's FAP, the rear windows also get stuck at 148,000 kilometers. As a result, dropping down just the front 2 windows means that maximum airflow is coming to the driver and the front passenger. This allows you, of course, to stay well oxygenated, mentally sharp, and very healthy. Thank you, Peugeot, for caring for my health. Moving along to the center console of the 206, you can see we have nothing short of greatness, a massive European ashtray at the front, your 5-speed manual shifter, a cigarette lighter. Then we have the side view mirror controls, your front window switches, a handbrake which is very excited to see you, some storage for probably another pack of cigarettes, the 2 redundant rear window switches, and of course a cup holder for rear passengers. Entering the rear seats of the Peugeot 206 is no easy task if you are a taller sort of person. As I'm sat right now, my right knee is literally sandwiched between the door trim and the driver's seat. Now, since those window switches are basically just for decoration, if I was in the event where I got into an accident with myself driving, and the door didn't open, of course, then I am basically stuck in here and there is no hope. So I would like to thank the engineers at Peugeot for considering the fact that I don't want to live without my legs functioning. So they've decided that the other alternative is to just burn me to a crisp in this crashed car. Thank you, Peugeot, for understanding and putting my feelings first. Underneath the bonnet of the 206 is an engine. And to be honest with you, I really can't tell you much other than the fact that it's a 4-cylinder. It runs on 1.6 liters of glory, and it leaks every fluid you could possibly think of. Then, of course, finally, is the trunk of the 206. Now, I'm sure you can tell by just looking at it that this trunk space is clearly used, and boy has it been used. When I first saw this car listed on our local auto trading website for about $5,000, I knew that I immediately needed to reach out to the owner. And so, after a quick little inspection and a bit of negotiation, we got it down to about $3,000. And by far, that $3,000 has saved dividends. You see, my father loves completing various landscaping projects around the house, whether it's concreting or moving dirt around or buying new plants just so they can die 2 weeks later. This is the car that he uses to transport all of that stuff around. And so, for the last 5 years and various forms of abuse, this Peugeot has continued to serve us well and loyally. The personal best that I've seen it pull off is about 10, 20 kilo concrete bags in the back all at once. I love as well that the designers at Peugeot knew exactly what this car would be used for, as they've gone ahead and pre-installed this lining on the back of the back seats in order to protect them when you fold them down. And of course, who would want to damage the beautiful premium rear seats of their Peugeot 206? Other than the fact that it allows for this car to be a phenomenal work mule, there really isn't much going on in the trunk of the 206. Now, I want to make it very clear that I'm usually the type to baby my cars and warm them up, but in the Peugeot 206, that is not a concern at all. And so, how does the almighty 206 drive on the road? The clutch pedal is exactly what you would expect for an economy vehicle like this. However, it's interesting to note that there isn't really that much space between the actual steering rack and the clutch pedal. So if you ever happen to be using the steering wheel and pushing in the clutch pedal at the same time, chances are you're going to feel the actual steering rack against your big toe. As far as brakes go, yes, it does have them, although I cannot tell you the last time that they were changed on this car, at least not in the last 50,000 Ks. So as a result, I wouldn't necessarily be betting on this car to win a Le Mans race. Now, although it does happen to be an electronic throttle body in this car, I can still say it's certainly one of the more responsive units which I have experienced. I think more than anything, it's the actual output of the engine that lets it down rather than the throttle response. The steering in the 206 has been designed extremely well. It's not too light, it's not too heavy, it feels just Goldilocks somewhere in the middle. It's not too sharp either, and yet it's not too bland and untelling. You get a really great idea of what the wheels are doing at all times without needing to work too hard every time you turn. As far as suspension goes, I'm not quite sure what witchcraft the engineers at Peugeot managed to pull off, but I really like it. It's genuinely very, very comfortable. I think the most bizarre part about it all is that it doesn't just violently understeer like every other front-wheel drive car to exist. No, instead, as you progress through the corner and you think you're about to hit peak understeer, the rear end just kind of rotates itself around and you end up with this beautiful glide around a corner. Overall, for what it is, I think this is some of the best suspension I've felt in a cheap car. A perfect balance between comfortable for daily commutes or just getting around town, and yet still being incredibly fun when you find yourself on a winding road. As I mentioned before, this car was actually used in WRC, so it shouldn't surprise you to know that the overall weight of the road-going version is only 1,119 kilos. That's 150 kilograms lighter than my GC8 WRX. Still though, it actually feels very solid when you drive the 206. Unless you're on the highway and it tends to be a little bit windy, that's a bit of a different story. For the intended purpose, the gearbox in this car actually feels really great. It's not too notchy, it's not too soft, it's neither here nor there really, in the best way possible. It truly is a great blend between keeping it engaging enough that you know which gear you're selecting when you pop it in, but without making it too engaging to the point where it actually feels laborsome. Now, as far as power goes, this little 1.6 litre just loves to scream its way to 6,500 RPM. It's not all that powerful, and I'll place the power figure here as to what it actually makes. While I won't try to sell you on the idea that this is a particularly fast car, because it's not, what it will do is definitely have your mind wondering what the GTI version of it feels like. I look forward to driving one of those one day and reporting back on exactly how fun it is. While that's pretty much everything that I personally have to say about the 206, my alter ego, JeanPierre, will now showcase what this car is really capable of.
Bonjour, it is I, JeanPierre. Monsieur Judge advised me that he needed a proper driver to handle this beast. Without further ado, shall we begin? 3, 2, 1. What a machine! He just wants to continue to spin the wheels. I am struggling to keep her under control. Do not let anybody tell you that the 206 is not a true rally car. Listen to her scream as she rolls down these roads. Magnifique! Let's see if we can get the tail out. It's not quite compliant. Good Lord, what speed it carries. Oh, oh, very good. Wow, what a riveting experience. They should have called it pure joy, not Peugeot. What a beast. A beast which cannot be tamed.
Hello, everything okay? Don't mind the costume, I'm just doing a video. It's a French car, so I'm dressed as a mime. Anyways, have a good day.
It appears that I have successfully deceived the locals. And with my talent show complete, I now must transfer the keys to Monsieur Judge before he begins to ask me to transfer petrol money.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Pierre, for showing us just how capable this car can be in very capable hands. Thinking back on the last 5 years that this beautiful little car has been a lawn ornament at my house, it really does make me appreciate it for what it has been. It's been a reliable workhorse, it's been comedic relief, and it's been genuinely practical transport at times. Before I filmed this video, I did ask myself, what would I actually do if the 206 blew up while I was enjoying it? And truthfully, the only thing I could think of doing is going straight to Facebook Marketplace or car sales and buying another Peugeot 206, maybe even a GTI this time. If you do happen to have a budget of about $3,000 and you are looking for a cheap car for yourself to own, I implore that you explore the Peugeot 206. Sure, these cars might not be as picture-perfect reliable as a Toyota or a Honda, but despite the electrical gremlins and random things that seem to go on, they refuse to just completely give up and die. And on top of that as well, you get one hell of a driving experience. While it does have its flaws, which great character doesn't? It's cheap, it has actual character, and it never fails to put a smile on my face. It's the greatest cheap car ever, the Peugeot 206. Disclaimer, no 206s were harmed in the making of this video.
Driving this car takes me back to the first time I saw Bob L'Éponge on the TV. I was 9 years old and my grandmother gave me my first cigarette and I smoked that so good. Merde! I believe I have gone the wrong way.